Why do 90% of profitable traders destroy their accounts in a single day of revenge trading? Mark Douglas discovered a hidden psychological pattern that separates elite traders from emotional gamblers. The secret isn't about technical analysis or risk management. It's about a fundamental belief that most traders never identify. This belief controls whether you'll trade with discipline or let anger obliterate your capital. What Douglas found will completely change how you see trading losses and why your brain sabotages your success when you're angry. If you're serious about trading, the most dangerous enemy isn't market volatility, it's the revenge trading mindset that turns disciplined traders into emotional gamblers in seconds. Here's the mystery that haunts every trader. You have a solid trading plan, proper risk management, and you've been consistently profitable for weeks. Then one bad trade hits, your stop loss triggers, you lose 2% of your account. Suddenly, something switches in your brain. The disciplined trader disappears, and an emotional gambler takes control. You double your position size. You ignore your rules. You chase the market like a predator, hunting wounded prey. Within hours, your profitable month becomes a devastating loss. Sound familiar? This isn't a lack of discipline. It's something far more sinister. Mark Douglas called this the certainty trap, and it's the hidden psychological pattern that explains why intelligent, educated traders become their own worst enemies. The conventional wisdom tells you to control your emotions or stick to your plan, but Douglas discovered that revenge trading isn't about emotional control. It's about a fundamental belief most traders carry without realizing it. This belief makes you perceive losses as personal attacks rather than natural market events. The mystery deepens when you realize that the most successful traders experience the same losses, the same frustrations, yet they never fall into the revenge trading spiral. What do they know that you don't? The answer lies in how they've rewired their relationship with uncertainty itself. Mark Douglas's breakthrough came from studying thousands of traders and discovering that revenge trading stems from what he called the need to be right belief system. This isn't about ego, it's about how your brain processes uncertainty and threat. When you enter a trade, your subconscious mind creates an expectation of being right. The market doesn't care about your analysis, your experience, or your need for validation. When the trade goes against you, your brain interprets this as a direct threat to your identity as a competent trader. This triggers what neuroscientists call the amygdala hijack. Your primitive brain takes control, flooding your system with stress hormones. But here's Douglas's crucial insight. Revenge trading isn't about getting your money back. It's about proving to yourself that you're not wrong about the market. Your brain desperately seeks to restore the feeling of control and competence. This is why traders often say, "I just need one good trade to get back to even," but then continue trading recklessly, even after recovering their losses. The elite traders Douglas studied had developed what he called probabilistic thinking. They genuinely believed that each trade was simply one outcome in an infinite series of possibilities. They didn't need to be right about any individual trade because they knew their edge played out over many trades. This belief system creates a psychological buffer. When a trade fails, their identity isn't threatened because they never expected certainty from that trade. They expected probability. This small shift in thinking creates a massive difference in emotional response. No threat to identity means no amygdala hijack. No hijack means no revenge trading. The most profound part, Douglas proved that changing this one belief was more powerful than any risk management rule or trading strategy. Traders who embraced probabilistic thinking naturally followed their rules because following rules felt consistent with their beliefs, not restrictive. Think of revenge trading like a casino player who just lost at roulette. The wheel landed on red instead of black, so they double their bet on black, convinced that black is due to hit. The player isn't thinking about probability. They're thinking about being right about their prediction. A professional gambler understands that each spin is independent. Red hitting 3 times doesn't make black more likely. They bet according to their system, not their emotions about previous outcomes. Elite traders think like professional gamblers. They don't take losses personally because they never expected certainty from individual trades. They expected probability across many trades. This single belief shift eliminates the psychological trigger that creates revenge trading. When you truly believe that any individual trade is just one random outcome in your statistical edge, losing becomes as emotionally neutral as a coin flip. You don't get angry at a coin for landing on tails. You shouldn't get angry at the market for moving against your position. If this is blowing your mind, stop right now and hit the subscribe button. Why? Because what comes next will blow up your view on how professional traders think about losses and uncertainty. And if you don't subscribe, the algorithm will hide my next secrets from you. But here's where the mystery deepens. Even traders who understand probabilistic thinking intellectually still fall into revenge trading. Why? Because knowledge isn't belief. Douglas discovered that most traders carry what he called conflicting beliefs. They know probability intellectually, but believe in certainty emotionally. This creates what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. Your rational mind knows that trading is probabilistic, but your emotional mind still expects to be right about each trade. When the trade fails, the emotional mind overrides the rational mind, triggering the revenge response. Douglas found that successful traders had to do more than understand probability. They had to experience it at a visceral level. They needed to reprogram their subconscious beliefs through what he called conscious repetition of new thought patterns. The elite traders developed specific mental practices that gradually shifted their internal experience of uncertainty. They didn't just think differently about probability, they felt differently about it. This emotional alignment with probabilistic thinking created what Douglas called the zone, a state where following trading rules felt natural and effortless. But here's the fascinating part. These traders weren't born with this mindset. They had to deliberately unlearn their need for certainty and replace it with comfort in uncertainty. Most had to overcome the same revenge trading patterns that plague every trader. The difference was their commitment to changing their fundamental beliefs about how markets work. Douglas's second breakthrough was discovering that revenge trading is actually an addiction pattern. When you trade for revenge, your brain releases dopamine, the same neurotransmitter involved in gambling addiction. You're not just trying to recover money, you're trying to recover the feeling of being right. This explains why traders often continue revenge trading even after getting back to break-even. The addiction isn't to money, it's to the feeling of control and validation. Each revenge trade promises to restore your sense of competence. But because the trades are based on emotion rather than edge, they usually fail, creating a cycle of increasing desperation. The elite traders Douglas studied had learned to recognize this dopamine pattern and interrupt it. They developed what he called belief interruption techniques, specific mental practices that broke the cycle before it started. The most powerful technique was what Douglas called the pre-acceptance mindset. Before entering any trade, these traders would mentally accept the full loss amount, not just intellectually but emotionally. They would visualize the loss happening and practice feeling neutral about it. This pre-acceptance eliminated the psychological surprise that triggers revenge trading. But Douglas discovered something even more profound. When traders genuinely pre-accepted losses, they paradoxically became more profitable. Why? Because they could exit losing trades quickly without emotional attachment. They could let winners run without fear of giving back profits. They could size positions appropriately without fear distorting their risk assessment. The pre-acceptance mindset created what Douglas called mechanical trading behavior, not robotic, but natural adherence to rules because the rules aligned with their beliefs. They didn't have to force themselves to follow their plan. Following the plan felt like the natural thing to do. This is why traditional advice about controlling emotions fails. You can't control emotions that stem from fundamental beliefs. You have to change the beliefs that create the emotions. When you genuinely believe that each trade is one outcome in a probability distribution, losing becomes emotionally neutral. Imagine a meteorologist predicting weather. When they forecast a 70% chance of rain and it doesn't rain, they don't get angry or try to prove their prediction by making increasingly dramatic weather forecasts. They understand that 30% no rain outcomes are normal within their 70% rain prediction. Professional traders think like meteorologists. They predict probability, not certainty. When their 70% probability setup fails, they don't take it personally because they always expected 30% of their setups to fail. The failure confirms their understanding of probability rather than threatening it. Revenge traders think like fortune tellers. They predict specific outcomes and feel personally attacked when those outcomes don't materialize. They keep making increasingly desperate predictions to prove their original prediction was right. The shift from fortune teller thinking to meteorologist thinking eliminates revenge trading because it eliminates the psychological trigger, the need to be right about specific outcomes. If you're still watching, you are different from most people. Prove it. Leave your like now and subscribe, because people like you deserve to know all the secrets I'll reveal in the next videos. But here's the ultimate mystery Douglas uncovered. Even traders who master probabilistic thinking and pre-acceptance can still experience revenge trading under extreme stress. Why? Because stress regression causes people to revert to their oldest, most primitive belief patterns. Douglas discovered that revenge trading often emerges during what he called convergence events, moments when multiple stressors hit simultaneously. Maybe you're having relationship problems, financial pressure outside trading, or health concerns. Your mental resources are depleted, and your sophisticated probabilistic thinking gets overwhelmed by primitive survival instincts. During these moments, even experienced traders can suddenly start trading like desperate gamblers. Their logical mind knows better, but their primitive brain takes control. This is why some traders can go months or years without revenge trading, then suddenly blow up their account in a single session. The elite traders Douglas studied had developed what he called stress state awareness, the ability to recognize when they were psychologically vulnerable to regression. They had specific protocols for these high-risk periods. Some would reduce position sizes during stressful life periods. Others would take complete trading breaks until their mental state stabilized. The most sophisticated developed what Douglas called metacognitive monitoring, constantly assessing their own psychological state while trading. But the deepest insight was this: revenge trading vulnerability never completely disappears. It's always lurking in your primitive brain, waiting for the right conditions to emerge. The secret isn't eliminating this vulnerability, it's building systems that account for it. Douglas's final and most profound discovery was what he called the paradox of control. The harder traders try to control their emotions, the more emotional they become. The harder they try to control the market, the more the market punishes them. The secret to discipline isn't more control, it's surrendering the illusion of control. Elite traders had learned to control only what was truly controllable: their preparation, their rules, their position sizing, their risk management. Everything else, market direction, individual trade outcomes, daily profits and losses, they accepted as beyond their control. This surrender wasn't passive resignation. It was active acceptance that freed up enormous mental energy. Instead of fighting reality, they worked with it. Instead of demanding certainty from uncertainty, they found opportunity in uncertainty. Douglas called this trading in the zone, a psychological state where traders felt completely aligned with market reality. In this state, following rules felt effortless because the rules matched their beliefs about how markets actually work. Taking losses felt natural because losses were part of their edge, not threats to their identity. But here's the breakthrough insight. The zone wasn't a mystical state that some traders were lucky enough to experience. It was a learnable skill that came from aligning beliefs with market reality. Any trader could develop zone thinking by systematically replacing certainty-based beliefs with probability-based beliefs. The process required what Douglas called conscious competence, deliberately practicing new thought patterns until they became unconscious and automatic. It meant catching yourself in old thinking patterns and consciously choosing new ones. It meant repeatedly reinforcing probability-based beliefs until they became stronger than certainty-based beliefs. The ultimate goal wasn't to never feel frustrated by losses, it was to feel frustrated for only seconds instead of hours or days. It wasn't to never have the impulse for revenge trading, it was to recognize the impulse and choose a different response. Douglas proved that trading discipline wasn't about willpower or emotional control. It was about belief alignment. When your beliefs about trading matched the reality of how markets actually work, discipline became natural and effortless. Think of market mastery like learning to drive in heavy traffic. Beginner drivers get frustrated and angry when other cars don't behave as expected. They honk, they weave, they try to control other drivers' behavior. This emotional driving creates dangerous situations and increases stress. Expert drivers accept that traffic is unpredictable. They can't control other drivers, but they can control their own vehicle, their following distance, and their route planning. They work with traffic flow instead of fighting it. This acceptance makes them safer, calmer, and paradoxically more efficient. Revenge traders are like angry drivers trying to control traffic. Professional traders are like expert drivers who accept traffic reality and focus on what they can actually control. They don't get angry at the market for being unpredictable because they never expected it to be predictable. The anger that fuels revenge trading comes from expecting the market to behave rationally when markets are fundamentally irrational in the short term. When you align your expectations with market reality, the anger disappears because the trigger, violated expectations, no longer exists. This is Mark Douglas's ultimate insight. Discipline in trading comes from believing in probability rather than certainty, accepting what you can't control rather than fighting it, and pre-accepting losses as natural parts of your edge rather than threats to your identity. Douglas revealed that revenge trading isn't a discipline problem, it's a belief problem. Change your beliefs about certainty, control, and losses, and discipline becomes natural. The secret isn't fighting your emotions, it's changing the beliefs that create those emotions. Elite traders don't have superhuman discipline. They have aligned beliefs that make discipline effortless. If these secrets blew your mind, you need to see my next videos, but only if you hit the bell icon. Otherwise, you'll lose the most powerful secrets in history. What is your opinion on the ideas presented in this content? Leave it in the comments. Send this news to that friend of yours who has a keen perception. This content is strictly educational and analytical and does not constitute financial advice or investment recommendations.